Welcome back to another episode of A Girl Business Podcast. Okay, this episode we're going to be doing things slightly different because my microphone gave out. So, a part of this might seem like it might be giving like Japanese voiceovers, but just bear with me. What is most important is that our guest, Kristen Shipman of Reset Home Styling, her audio came through perfect, and that's what matters. So, Kristen is the owner of Reset Home Styling. She is a professional home stylist. And what is so special to me about her company is that she will come in and she will redesign your home using pieces that you already have on top of many other services. And I just think it's great because it opens doors for people that might not be able to afford a typical interior designer or a typical stylist. So I'm so excited for you to hear Kristen's story and more about her company. So I will let her take it from here.
Great. Thank you, Shelby. I appreciate you coming to visit us here.
We're in Gray Eagle.
Yes, Gray Eagle at our little tiny vacation slash family home here that we bought a couple years ago. And I had sent Shelby some before pictures so that she could see what it looked like before and then she could see what it looks like after. My love for design and color goes way, way back to the time I was a little girl. I mean, I remember my dad wearing these awful socks and sandals, and now it's actually in fashion, but way back then it was not. And thinking, oh my gosh, there's got to be a better way for you to dress, Dad. But I just always had an interest in color and fashion. And so my family moved from Connecticut to the Bay Area when I was a freshman in high school. And my mom got our colors done, color consultant, color analyst there in the Bay Area, who was pretty well known at the time. That was my gift for moving across the country. My first year of high school. So I ended up working for her and working alongside of her and learning so much about color. And then as I got a little bit older and closer to college age, I started working in fashion retail. I went to college for fashion merchandising. And then after I got out of college, I worked for Nordstrom for 4 years and was an assistant buyer for them for a while before we had our first daughter. So it's always been somehow in my background, color and style. And then my husband and I have moved our family numerous times. We seem to get tired of our homes or move to a different city. And so each time we sold our house, I had to figure out how to make it more presentable and hopefully earn us some more money. And in 2016, our realtor said, I think you'd probably be pretty good at this, getting other people's homes ready to sell. And I said, really? You think so? I didn't realize I could really make money off of that. So my oldest daughter was already working, had graduated college, and she and I decided to start our own vacant staging company. And so we did that for just about a year. We were very successful. All of our houses sold under a week for at or above asking. And at that time, we were putting all the money back into our business. So we weren't putting any money in our own pockets. So she decided that was a business model that wasn't working for her. So she went back to work full time. And then just about that same time that she decided to do that, one of the big stagers, vacant stagers in Reno, had called us up and we had a couple conversations and they said, why don't we merge together? And so I went, merged our companies, and I went and worked with them for about a year and decided that vacant staging was not my thing. I really liked when they would send me out on the occupied stages. And that's where people were living in their homes and they needed to sell. And so we needed to figure out a way to present that so that their house was entering the market in the strongest position possible using their own things. Because usually when people are living in their homes to sell, they have a lot of stuff. We all have a lot of stuff. And the way we live in our homes is not the way we usually sell our homes. So there's an opportunity there to do some prep work and some editing, and some, I call it editing. Many people call it depersonalizing. A bunch of safety items in there too that I talk about with clients. So fast forward, I decided that I was going to branch out on my own concentrate on occupied staging. And then I got a lot of calls for redesign. I've got this room, I like my stuff, but I don't really like the way it looks. Can you come and help me? So about 7-ish years ago, one of my very favorite clients that has become a really good friend, Mindy, she lived in Truckee with her husband, and they had a big old house there. And she had a lot of really cool pieces. Her dad had been an artist and a photographer. And so she had a lot of his artwork around the house, and he had passed. And she just wanted the house to feel more like them. She wanted it to be more personal. So she completely gutted the house of all of her accessories and artwork, and they put it up in one of the rooms upstairs. And then, so that was my first really big project. And that took a couple months. I would go there on weekends and we would work on that. And she was just so thrilled with it. And that's just the greatest feeling. That's why I do what I do, is because the homeowner, they just love it so much. And they're like, I didn't know my house could feel this way. It's not just the way it looks, but it's the way it feels too. And then another story about redesign that is one of my favorites is I was working with a gal, another designer in town for window coverings had brought me in, and the gal had lost her husband recently, this client, and she loved her home and she loved the things in it, but she wasn't loving the way it was making her feel. And she really felt like she needed a new start. So we started with what she had. We started in her living room. After a couple, these projects are usually longer term. So after a couple visits, over a month's time or 6 weeks' time, she said, I just love what we're doing. She said, I love the way it feels. She texted me one morning and she said, Dear Kristen, when I woke up this morning, I had such a sense of peace and calm that I haven't felt in years since her husband had died. And it kind of brings me to tears, even just talking about it, because that's so special. And she felt refreshed and revived, and like she was still honoring her husband's memory and all the wonderful memories they had created together because they had traveled a lot. But she needed it to feel like who she was now, and giving her energy and positivity for where she wanted to go. So yeah, those are kind of my two favorite stories that talk about how I got to where I am now. So I do a lot of redesign. I also work with realtors and do pre-listing consultations. So a realtor will call me in, hopefully as early as possible. And
You realtors out there, call earlier.
The earlier the better.
Earlier the better.
Yeah. And we do a pre-listing consultation. It's about 2 hours, and I come in and we talk about your curb appeal, and we talk about from the front door through to the back door. And we will talk about the money rooms in the house, which are like your entry, your living, your dining, kitchen, your primary bed and bath. And those are what we call the money rooms. Those are the rooms that sellers are usually most interested in. And we talk about how we use what the owner who's living in the home, when it will be listed, they'll still be there, how we can rearrange, edit, depersonalize all that so that the house shows up really well in those marketing photos and videos, because we all know that that is the way that 95% of the world finds a home to live in now. It has to be eye catching on the photos. It has to look good. It has to look clean, and most of all, we want to highlight the benefits of each house. So we work with the clients that way, and then I can be hired back to make the changes, or they can do it themselves. After that 2 hour consultation, they're left with a really solid plan, and we prioritize, and it's all based on their timeline and their budget. If they are in a big old hurry and they have very little dollars, then we prioritize the changes that need to be made. And so, otherwise there might be some painting that I would suggest being done, or maybe there's an old awful rug that really needs to be replaced. Most buyers nowadays are looking for, most, not all, but most are looking for, ready to move in homes that they don't have to do a lot of work to. So again, I work with the the agents and their clients to figure out the best plan for the homeowners, allows them to enter the market in the strongest position possible. Is it perfect? Are they going to look like they're living in a model home? Probably not, but it is going to be so much better and so much stronger than it would have been before. So, and hopefully by making those changes, you're drawing more people in, more buyers, potential buyers to come into the house, to look at the house. And that usually translates into a quicker sale, and it usually translates into more money. So there's a lot of neuroscience behind it too. And I talk about that with clients. For instance, color, back to color again. Color is part of neuroscience. It is a science, and so the eye is always drawn to color first. And so you might place color at the back of a room so that when a potential buyer comes in, their eye is going through the room so that they're seeing the whole room. If we put color at the front of the room, the eye would just stop right there. So we tend to move the color more towards the back of the room so that the potential buyer is looking at the whole room. And obviously the benefits or the highlights, the cool architecture or the great fireplace or, the awesome staircase, whatever it is that house needs highlighting. So, and then part of that service can be me suggesting colors. Sometimes people need to replace a kitchen countertop, or they need to repaint a kitchen or any other room. And so I can come in and do a color consultation, color and materials consultation for them to help with that. And then I can also come back and do photo styling right before the pictures are being taken so that everything is set at the right angles and in the right way so that when the photographer comes in, he's got this really strong background to take the really awesome pictures. Still, sort of the basic rule of thumb is neutrals. If you're going to be selling your house in, say, 3 years, it's kind of the timeline. Your best bet where you will find more return on your investment is if you stick with neutral colors. So, say you move into a house and you need to replace the carpets. Am I going to recommend that you get teal or red carpets? No, I'm probably going to recommend that you get more of a neutral, earth colored, lighter beige, whatever, cream, depending on what the house needs. But, again, for people living in their house short term, I would be more mindful of that. For people who are going to live there over 3 years, or maybe it's their forever home, you decorate it as much and as you want to, and use all the color and all the cool, textures and vibes that you want to. So, yeah.
Thinking about my house, like 90% of it is dark green. My carpet is dark green, but it's a vibe though. I'll have it for a while.
And you know what? Dark, moody colors are totally in right now. That color drenching is totally in. In fact, I am dying to hopefully have a client who wants to do some color drenching in that. It's where the walls and the trim and the ceilings are all painted the same color. And it just has such this rich, moody vibe, depending on what color you choose. So your green, carpets and walls sound perfect. I'd actually love to see them.
I hope that you would come soon. It came with dark green carpet. You'll just have to come see it, girl.
I have to come see it.
Yeah.
And this is Almanor, right?
This is in Lake Almanor, so
All
it
right.
kind of fits the vibe
Cool.
out there,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
But anyways, okay, enough about me.
No. I don't have that much more to say, I don't think.
I think all that was great. So you started as a color theorist. Is that what it's called, or that's where you got introduced to
That's
color?
where I just fell in love with color. I've always loved color, but that was really, a little bit more the science of color, and it was using color to enhance a person's, the way they dress and the color makeup they use, and that's actually making a revival too. And I don't profess to be an expert. I didn't learn how to do color analysis. I was just the teenage assistant, but I just learned so much about color in general. And that's just cemented my love for color. My kids, my two grown daughters, will walk into a store, and if it's colorized in any way, it's like my heart starts to sing and hum, and I'm like, and they're like, Mom, calm down, just calm down. But I just love it. I mean, just color, yeah, it's my favorite. So,
do you have a favorite color? Do you love them all, or what's like your vibe?
My personal favorite colors, I don't have one right now, so I would say probably pink and purple and blue, and none of those colors are here in the house. But, I also believe when I style a home, it needs to fit the vibe of the home too. So, but my own personal colors open my wardrobe are like pink, purple, and blue. Are those jewel tones? A little bit more jewel tones. Yeah. Yeah. There is a whole psychology to color. There really, really is. And that's where I started to learn that. So, we used to call it color psychology. Now I think they call it, neuroscience too. But I actually, for clients who I work with in redesign, I give them a folder that has a number of different handouts in it. And one of them is the psychology of color, and each color diffuses a different kind of feeling. Like yellow can be used to make people talk more and be more chatty. It's definitely a sunnier color. It can invigorate people. It can be overstimulating for some too. You have to pick the right shade. Orange and red, I don't know. Those are colors that are used a lot in restaurants, and I think Burger King and McDonald's, Taco Bell, and those colors usually stimulate hunger. Black can be used as a very sedate color, but more sophisticated, but used incorrectly, it can be kind of a big downer too. So, it's just blue is a very calming color. It's usually soothing. Green is a very natural color. So, here in the house here in the woods, I've used a lot of green because it just sort of brings the outside in. So, color, there is a lot of psychology behind color. And so it is appropriate to use it in appropriate ways. It kind of underlines your message. I think, especially if people are doing, say, nurseries or, for a new baby, or, your bedroom as your sort of sanctuary, it's important to choose the right colors for that give you that vibe and that feeling. What is your personal opinion about the beige trend? So that very gender neutral kind of nursery. I don't know. I mean, I think that if you don't know what the gender of your child's going to be and it's a surprise, then that's a safe way to go. If you do know, then for me, I would want to, veer one way or the other, just give it a little bit more personality. Back when I was raising my girls, it was, black and white were the stimulating colors, the little Einstein toys and stuff. And primaries were supposed to be, stimulating for kids and help them learn. So it's really swung the other way. But I do notice, because I have two grandchildren, and that the toys are quite a bit different for my grandkids than they were for my daughters. So yeah. But I think, it's whatever feels good to you too. And I'm never one to say you have to do this or you have to do that. You have to do what feels right for you and what feels right for you, because your home is all about the way it feels. It's about the way it looks, but it's about the way it feels. Does your home feel really good when you walk into it? Do you go, or do you go, oh God, where do I start? Where do I sit? What's the most productive room for me? As in your office or a place to set up your laptop. You don't have this, so it's just important how it feels.
Any tips for girls that might want to get started?
First, start small. I would start in a small area. Don't try to tackle it all at once, and figure out what you want the function of that area to be. Because function and flow, I talk about that a lot with my clients too. For a home to feel good, it needs to function properly too. And that needs to function the way you need it to. And then it all needs to flow also. So from one room to the other doesn't mean it needs to be all the same color. It just means that there has to be a transition from room to room that feels good. That feels like it's a natural sort of progression through the house when you're looking through it. Again, not talking about matching colors or patterns, but there needs to be something that continues from one room to the next. Whether it's texture, it could be color, it could be, lighting, it could be the artwork. I mean, there's a number of things. So as far as small ways, again, that gals can start looking at their homes is, again, I would try to identify one area of your home maybe that's given you grief, that just doesn't feel good, and you're like, I know this could feel better, I know this could look better, and start there. Part of the services, or part of what I do with my services is, like you said, and like I've said, is using things from all over the house, using what they already own. So I might go into your kitchen cabinet or ask you, hey, do you have a white bowl that's, 6 inches by 4 inches? I might draw something from another room and give it a whole new purpose. So again, analyze the space that's bugging you the most, analyze what you want it to be. Okay, do you need a little sitting room? Maybe you need a little yoga space. Maybe you need a little reading corner. Maybe you just need a really great office too. And look for the spaces that you can change and make into that. There's all kinds of clever ideas. I'm all about repurposing space, repurposing, decor, furniture, you name it, and trying to get creative about using what you already have. So maybe you have a closet that you're not using that you turn into a small office for yourself. Think about the vibe that you want for that room. Think about a color palette that's really pleasing to you that you think will make you feel really good. And so that, just a couple ways to start, and then, start looking online. Another thing that I will really tell clients to do too, and it's very helpful to kind of jump to where they want to get to, is to look. Pinterest is a great resource. Houzz.com has millions and millions of photos. So you can go to their website and you put in like coastal bedrooms, and you will get hundreds of thousands of photos that will come up. And you can look through there, and then you can save photos just like you can on Pinterest. Do like, you know, lookbooks or whatever you want to call it, and start gathering your ideas. And sometimes it's just as important to figure out what you don't want, because a lot of times there are people who say, I really don't know what I want. I don't know what my style is. And part of my process in working redesign clients, when they want to refresh their spaces, we go through a pretty intensive questionnaire, and we talk a lot about, what you like, what do you not like, what needs to stay, what needs to go, what are you hoping to accomplish, what is going to be the function of this room, who lives in this house, who's going to use this room, how are they going to use this room. And so, a lot of times people think that design and decorating is just, oh, just throw this here and that there, and just bring in a bunch of new stuff and it's all, over and done with. And it can be for sure. And the room, I'm sure, would be just beautiful. I like to go a little bit more in depth and tell the story of the people who live there and make sure that the home works for them, the space works for them. Again, back to the function and flow.
Would you say that you're a professional stylist? Because I know you said interior design, that's like a whole nother thing.
So I say I'm a home stylist and stager. I started out as a stager, and then I morphed into using home stylist because I felt like that was more all encompassing for me, with the color selections and also with the redesign work that I was doing. And interior designers are fantastic and fabulous, and they have, many degrees, and a little bit of architecture, a little bit of construction background, and that has never been my emphasis. And clearly, I'm not, licensed for that either. But I do have accreditation for home styling and for staging, accredited programs in the country. And I have taken many, many classes and continually do continuing ed too, because you have to keep up on all the latest trends, the colors, the materials, the styles. So I'm constantly learning. It's just a little bit more on the decor side.
Has there ever been a trend that's come around that you just thought was the ugliest thing ever?
What's funny is, and this is a weird story, goes back to the color analysis thing. So when I had my colors done, I was they said I was a winter. And so winters wear more jewel tones and silver tone jewelry. So from that moment on, I have never worn gold jewelry. So I didn't like purses that had gold on it. I didn't want gold in my house. And I was just absolutely, it had to be, brushed nickel or chrome. And And now in the last couple of years, as all of the antique brass and some of these warm gold tones have come out, I love them, and have tried to find ways to incorporate them in my home. I still don't like to wear them, but I like them in my home. I like them in homes that I help, do design work in and stuff. So that's one trend that I have didn't like, but now I really do like. They can be just really pretty used in the right way. And I love to mix metals too. I'm a huge proponent on mixing metals. So if you've got some antique brass, maybe you've got some polished or nickel, and then you've got some just looking around copper and some of the other tones. I think it all looks great. You can make it all look really well together.
What are some of your next steps with your company?
I would love to start working and expanding into the Airbnb and vacation rental market. I would love to help people refresh their Airbnbs, their vacation rental homes, working with the homeowners themselves or maybe their property managers to up level some of the listings. And hopefully, by up leveling them, we get great new photos for them and they increase their occupancy rates and their rental fees. And I would love to just really help people in this area do that. I know when we were looking for this house, we looked at a lot of vacation rentals to buy. And a lot of times it will be whatever was left over in their primary house, they would bring up to the vacation rental. And so it would be a lot of mismatched things. It would be a lot of, I'm not trying to offend anyone because I'm a grandma, but a lot of grandma-esque type stuff. Things that you wouldn't keep in your own house. And you're like, oh, that'd be great up at the cabin, and and that doesn't always translate well in photos. And that doesn't always make people want to spend a lot of money. They're coming to Airbnbs and vacation rentals to have a great time and a vacation. And so they want something different than what they have at home. And they're willing to pay for it if you buy that. And so I think that I think in this area, we could use a little help with that. So I would love to help anyone out there, any realtor, property manager, homeowner that wants to level up some of their listings or all of their listings and start increasing the level of excellence for this area, because we have such an awesome area here in Plumas County. And I mean, we have so many people who've been coming here for years and generations, and new people all the time too, who are discovering our lost Sierra for the first time. We have so much to offer. And so let's offer them the full experience, where they're staying and where they're doing their outdoor adventures in. But you might have some cool stuff and we'll totally use it, but maybe that mauve wall or those mauve walls need to be painted, and maybe that green carpet might need to go. Not your green carpet, but maybe mine too. I'm envisioning bright teal. I saw a listing not that long ago that had bright teal carpeting up here. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. Well, and sometimes it's better just to refresh. And again, you refresh, you get your pictures retaken. That is so important to people. Please retake your pictures if you get your house refreshed. And then you get to ask for more money. But people see that. And I also think that giving them the experience of the area, like I shared with you when we first bought this house here, we were going to turn it into an Airbnb and then decided to just keep it as a family vacation home, but bringing in some of the essence of the area. So like behind Shelby, I have an old map of Gray Eagle on the wall there.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't notice that.
And then we've got some snowshoes here, and I've got some wood skis in there, and we've got a Gray Eagle sign that has the latitude, longitude on it. So things like that really ground people into the vacation rental they're staying at. It just continues that vibe of where they are, has that essence of where they're staying. That's super important to bring into vacation rentals too. So anyway, I would love to help anyone out there who would like to, level up their rentals. I'd never go into a house and say, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. I say,
Bring in the dump trailer.
no, what can we use? How can we reuse it? How can we repurpose this? Where will this best shine? Where will this best service whatever use that it might have? So yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It is a lot of work, and I think clients can feel a little overwhelmed. At the end of the day, I know I'm exhausted, they're exhausted, but you're on such a high when you're doing it. Like, I don't stop to eat, I don't stop to drink, I
That's
don't
not
stop.
good, girl.
I know, that's terrible, but you just get on this roll and you just want to keep going and going. And that's why I love what I do too, because it's such a creative high for me to help people transform their homes and to see the smile on their faces. And it's like, oh my gosh, I never would have thought of doing that. That first gal, Mindy, I was telling you about in Truckee, they ended up selling that house, moving to Sierraville. So I helped them redo that whole house too. But in the first Truckee house, they had a big, huge sort of almost rounded L-shaped sectional, and they had it on one side of the room. And the first thing I said when I came in is there any possibility that we could flip it to the other side of the room? She's like, well, I mean, sure, yeah, I guess. Do you think that's really necessary? And I said, it's going to make a huge difference. So we swapped it to the other side of the room. They could still see the TV, but what they could see was their beautiful outside yard and all the forest and all the trees now. They could literally sit on their couch and enjoy it all. She said, I never thought of that. And I never thought that that would be a possibility. And she says, I cannot believe what a huge difference it made. Didn't cost us any money, didn't cost them a dime to move that, to swap it in the room. So it's just things like that, that when you've lived in a house for a long time, or you've lived with your stuff for a long time, you think, well, I can only use it one way. And that's how I come in. I'm like, how can we reimagine this? How can we move it around? How can we change this? So the tagline for my company is same house, new home. And that's what I feel like for any of the services that I do. It's the same house. We're not changing your house. We're just changing it into a new home.
And you've recently gone through a rebranding for your company. So tell us a little bit about that process and how that's been for you.
So rebrand was super, 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 super exciting and super energizing for me. I think we finally well, it's an ongoing process as everything in business always is, but we really finished the majority of it probably about 6 or 8 weeks ago. And it took a bit, it was like a 2 or 3 month process, but I I kept the same company name, but I was not happy with my logo. I had my business cards, had my website, and it was all just fine. My website was more like a landing page than anything, but I just wanted to have that web presence so that if someone looked me up, they could see, okay, she does really exist. She is legit. It's not a great website, but at least we know she's real. And I thought, you know what? This doesn't speak to who I am. It doesn't speak to what I do. It told people what I did, but I didn't even have any gallery pictures on there. And I just thought, this does not feel like me. And it didn't give me confidence either. And I felt like, I think I shared with you that I felt like this was the year that I really need to get my shit together and really and really go for it and really, go deep on what it is I wanted to do, who my target market was, and what I wanted to say about myself and how I wanted to present myself. So I worked with this wonderful gal, Stephanie Sherwood, who I knew through some other friends. And she is like the consummate creative guru. I first told this mutual friend, I said, gosh, do you think I know Stephanie's really good at Canva, and I just kind of suck at Canva. And I just would like to do a couple things on Canva. Do you think she would teach me? And she's like, oh, for sure. She totally would. And she's like, I'll introduce you online. And so she did. And then next thing I know, they're coming back and saying, your website is not reflective of who you are, or what you do at all. And I'm like, okay, valid point. Totally true. Yes, I know that. And so we started down this deep rabbit hole. But I love my website. I love my new logo. I'm going to have Shelby help me with some wearables because I've never had wearables yet. And I'm dying to get some. And yeah, she and I work together really well. And she listened so well to me about what I wanted and what I needed, but also advising me about what she thought might work better. Or I was constantly saying, what are your thoughts on this too? Because it's very much a give and take. I can have all the creative vision in the world, but and I do for homes, but I do not for graphic design. And so she knows much better than I how those things would translate, what was better received. So yeah, it was a joy to work with her. Thrilled with the results. I love passing out my business card. So thank you for asking.
Any words of wisdom for the girls out there who are in business or might want to start their own business?
Yeah. I just told my daughter, who's another small women owned business. She's a florist, and I helped her this weekend. And I said, I feel so excited about this place that I am in my life right now and just this time because I've met so many wonderful women lately, you, and it just changed when I changed my mindset this year. And I thought, you know what? This is not my comfort zone at all, at all. And I do much better one on one, but I don't love the camera. I don't like hearing my own voice. And I'm not great at networking. I'd much rather talk to you just like we're sitting here at a table chatting. But if I don't start doing some of those things that I know are going to help put myself out there and get my name more known, then I'm never going to get off, this small square that I started on. And so I just really made it a priority this year to do that. So going back to these wonderful women, I joined a couple of networking groups in Reno and then somehow saw your stuff and have connected with you. And now you're part of the Reno group too. And just I've never felt a time where I felt just really proud to be a woman. And I think that comes with my age and my experience also, and the fact that my children are grown and we're empty nesters. And finally, I can sort of concentrate on where I want to go and who I want to be now. But I think women are finding a time in 2025 where it's really important. We know it's important to band together. We know it's important to support each other. We know it's important to do business with each other. And so I just feel like it's just a great time right now. And so I think that for women who are starting out or women who are struggling is find your tribe. And I know sometimes that's easier said than done, but be willing to say yes and be willing to step out of your comfort zone. Look for some other women, who are in business because there's so many of us. That's one of the things that your podcast has really opened my eyes to is, we've spent and had this house here in Plumas County for 3 years. And before that, my husband's been coming up since he was a kid. But I just never realized how many of these businesses are owned by women. And do you know that that's all I want to do now is support women? And I know that sounds totally like cliche, but it's not. I want to support other women because I think we work pretty damn hard to do what we do with our passions amongst all the other things that we do in life. Oh,
Cheers to that. Cheers to
cheers.
womanhood, girls. Anything else that you'd like to share or closing thoughts
Oh my
or
gosh. No, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I hope I don't look too dorky for people and I hope that I didn't wax on too much, but I appreciate the opportunity to talk about my passion. And I would love to talk to anybody. There's always a free discovery call for anyone who wants to chat about a project they might have coming up or just ask more questions. Yeah, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you and watching your journey and maybe helping you at Lake Almanor too.
Absolutely.
I'm on Instagram at Reset Homestyling. My website is www.resethomestyling.com. I'm on Facebook as Kristen Shipman, so please feel free to direct message me or call me from my website. I'd love to talk to anyone.
So my mic basically was completely gone by this point, and we are getting ready to take a little tour of Kristen's home with some before and afters. But before we do that, if you would also like to support women in business, the easiest way is just by clicking subscribe, click that like button, and maybe share this with a girl that you think could use some words of wisdom.
This is a little house that my husband and I bought 3 years ago, and Shelby will post the before pictures. And we painted the whole outside of the house, and we painted the whole inside of the house. So we've got the living room here, living room, TV room. So what we did was we did all new paint. We didn't have any of the furniture, so we have picked up furniture through Facebook Marketplace, auctions, garage sales, hand-me-downs, giveaways, and furnished it all. And it just came together. It's funny because I was looking for rustic things and I found just tons of things. And now when I've gone back to look for clients for rustic things, I cannot find anything. So sometimes it's just a time and a place and it all seemed to work. We have this extra bonus room off here that we created a little playroom for our grandchildren to come and when they stay with us or when their parents come up, just a little playroom for them too. This can be turned into a 4th bedroom, so that was a nice bonus.
This is Charlie.
This is Charlie. Yep, he's our 2-year-old. He's actually I call him a Husker Doodle. We actually had his DNA done, and he's part Husky, if you can imagine, part Poodle, and part Cocker Spaniel.
Oh my goodness, Charlie, you're quite the guy.
He is, but he's got really short legs. So, our master bedroom, I was able to get these really cool log beds off of Facebook Marketplace. I got this one with the canopy, which I just love. I've always wanted a canopy bed. That chair was from a friend and she didn't want it for her house, and so it became the focal point or the starting point for this room. We got that cool Indian chief from an auction in Reno, which I just love the character in his face. He's just awesome. So just kind of fun putting these pieces together. And actually this metal piece was from my husband's family. So it's probably at least 45 years old.
Oh my gosh.
So it was saved in the family. And that little dresser was his brother's dresser growing up. So somehow we just were able to keep and recycle these pieces from family and reuse them again.
Charlie, how would you rate the bed? 10 out of 10? Husky approved? Husky approved.
He sheds like a husky. He doesn't look much like a husky, but he sheds like a husky. Kitchen, dining area. So we got all new appliances because they were original and painted in here. These were green and turquoise walls beforehand. Got some fun. Those 2 shelves were just at an auction also. My daughter made that gray eagle sign. And that gray eagle sign and that shelf just seemed like they're one. And then my husband was so sweet. He bought me that little lazy bear from the Mountain Ace Hardware in Blairsden here. I just love him.
He's really cute. And then this is where we just filmed.
And when the family does all get together, we have a lot of us. So we got a great big old table so that everyone could sit down at one time.
And this is the map that you had pointed out earlier.
That's the map of Grey Eagle, yep.
That is really cool. You know what? The style kind of reminds me of Where's Waldo?
Uh-huh. Yeah, it does. It does. I think I bought that at Wild Pines.
Oh,
right
that's a
here
good shop.
in Grey Eagle, yeah.
Another woman-owned business?
I was going to say another woman-owned business. And just some tchotchkes and stuff. But here's like I can tell you where every piece in the house came from, which will bore everyone to tears. But this print up here, that was a print that I got at a thrift store for $1. I thought it was perfect for Grey Eagle. And then I bought the frame on sale at Hobby Lobby and put them together. So, I mean, I use things from all over and just coordinate it all.
That's such a gift.
So we've got 2 extra bedrooms. And as I told Shelby earlier, my girls still like to be equal. I don't like either one of them to get the upper hand. So I found matching bedspreads in different colors, and that was the starting point for each of these rooms. But that really cool oil painting on the wall we got at a garage sale here in town. And I thought it was perfect because it had the train in it. And even though it was supposedly for Colorado and made in Colorado, I thought it kind of fit for the Blairsden and Gray Eagle area.
I would have to agree.
And then this is the blue room, equal to the red room, just a little bit different color wave.
Very beautiful.